Okay, it's day 96 and it's part two. I'm going to just go ahead and start out and say I believe Genie Energy is involved in the bribing of senators and congressmen. I believe it's mainly targeted through coastal states. I'll get to why I believe that in a second, and I'll get to the targeting. Typically, looks like with Congress, the drug business in exchange for weapons, and for the Senate, it's more oil for weapons, and I'll get to that as well. So here is the map of the states for and against coastal drilling, and the reason why I believe the coastal drilling here has not been opened up to these states is to create a monopoly for the states of Louisiana and Texas. I believe the funnel here for the Senate is Texas. I believe the funnel here for the Democrats is Louisiana, sort of the kind of the bipartisan cooperation that they're having. And then they've tried to get all the other senators to oppose offshore drilling. The reason why is there's a key partnership here called Eagle Vale. Go back to my previous episodes. So the drugs part of this is obvious through the southern border. I think Port Huachuca is a key area there. I think San Ysidro is going to be another key area. I think there's going to be points along the way here near El Paso. Las Cruces is going to be another one for New Mexico. Those are going to be the key entry points. Also, the port of Corpus Christi are going to be key areas of interest. But I do believe offshore oil swap partnerships are being sold, and there are bribes that are going to be occurring, okay, I do believe Jeff Sessions is going to be involved, but I think all the senators along the Atlantic coast and the West Coast are going to be involved in a pay-to-play oil for weapons deal. Now, in the House, it's going to be different. It's going to be drugs for weapons, and I believe it's going to be key port locations. Obviously, the reason there is to provide different parts and negotiating capabilities for different bills and so forth. But I'm not saying it's Navy Masons. I don't want to target Navy Masons, but I do want to target Navy Masons that then decided to go into the Coast Guard and become part of JTTF. And I don't want to say it's SEIU. I don't want to say it's Teamsters in the SEIU. I don't want to say it's Teamsters in the SEIU that are teachers. I do want to say, though, it is going to be certain people in the human resources offices at major universities and high schools and janitors, okay? I'm trying to really not smear anybody. And again, Muslim Brotherhood's a cover. It's PakISI 111. Okay, so that's the pay to play. That's what I think the Jeff Sessions thing is going to come out. I think all those operations are color of law operations, and I think the Peter Strokes, Melissa Hodgman, and Lisa Page are all going to be involved in this kind of compromise. You're going to use compromise politicians. With Strokes, I believe he's involved in that. For the compromise of different financial executives to raise money for the senators, I believe Lisa Hodgman's involved in that. Okay, let's quickly go to Lachine. This is more the congressional side. In each different congressional area, you're going to have the governors on your side to control the ports. The ports are going to be governor is going to appoint the person who is in charge of the ports. For instance, here in Virginia, we had with McAuliffe appointed Cindy Grange, who was the wife of the weapons exporter General Grange. We have Tipper Sycamore and Zero Footprint for evidence there. So quickly going over to Lachine, there's these 3 beatings in Lachine. There's all this activity around 911 calls in Lachine. There's all these second wives that start appearing later as sort of like cover stories. I've done a lot of shows about that, but there are kind of paraphernalia and a history here with Amjad Awan of doing Pakistani 111 drugs for weapons. And I do believe these folks are bought in by carrying the BlackBerry. That is their key way. If you carry the BlackBerry, you're in it and unfortunately a lot of Black Caucus members are in it. But there are others as well. There's a lot of Hispanic and there's some white as well, guys that are involved in this. And once you carry the BlackBerry, or once you take payments from a Russian ambassador, you're on the payroll. And Kislyak, I still say, was the bagman for the weapons business. And it's going to be different people in the House for the drug business. Okay, moving along, here is why people in the House would do the extraordinary things like a felony of providing false evidence to the Capitol Police. Again, this is a way of making sure that somebody doesn't talk. Becerra here is being both blackmailed, but he also is a part of the running the server. I'm not saying Joe Crowley set up the server or runs this thing, but I do think there is a relationship that goes back a long, long way to the mafia and the ports business. And this is just the way of political insurance. Okay, I want to get that out. So if you go to another Luke Rosiak, great article, he talks about this timeline of beatings, okay? And this is why I say oil business, oil and metals business, uranium business, etc., tends to draw in all these other things, the trafficking of women, the occasional murders of women when things get out of hand, and then also the drugs, okay? If you notice here, a cut on stomach and arm, blood, so forth. These are not typical, this is way on the serious side. This isn't pushing somebody down on a bed after they poke you in the eye. This is serious when you are wounded both in the stomach and the arm. So right off the bat, I never would think Imran did this. I think he went there to cover. I don't think he ever had a relationship in these trashy homes here, these trashy apartments in Lachine in 2015. We know that he lived in a 5-bedroom, $1 million house. So right off the bat, all these things like telephone threats and so forth just really ring hollow. It almost seems like an obvious recreation after the fact to somehow, for some reason, tie Imran to Sadiq. Okay, if you are, I'm not saying very Freitag, but if you're the intake officer at Fairfax County, you can intercept that and then write that up and make that happen. Okay, so then there's going to be this arrest. Again, if Imran's doing the beating, why are they arresting an unknown person? Just doesn't quite make sense. Is that a domestic that the police found drugs and then they arrested the person? We don't know. But again, Imran during this period does not live at Lachine. So this looks like an obvious insert, cover up, reality winner, replacement, whatever you want to call it. Third one here, Chaudhry is the same thing. Manitoba again, dried blood on her, found blood on Imran again. If Imran is going there, is he really going to Lachine that often? Those ratty apartments from the $1 million house? No, he's going to make sure that his operatives are not going to jail. That's what I think is happening. Okay, or women that are being held against their will are not actually going there. Chaudhry, for instance, or Sadiq, she cries. Here again, she's getting another call to the same place. She cries, but she tells the police to leave her alone. Here, Golani, that's kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back. They decide to leave. Trump wins here on just after here, so Imran stops paying rent. They make the decision to leave for a while, I think. People are getting antsy. I think Hina Alvi and him are both getting very antsy about leaving the country for a while and then coming back in when the coast is clear. Again, this Golani thing happens, and that really breaks everything up. They must go get all the servers. The drug ring has been broken now, and they must go to the Congress and steal all 20 things. Again, if you're a Attorney General of California, which is Becerra, you don't do things like withhold a server from the Capitol Police, which is a felony, unless the felony that you're hiding is much, much greater. Okay, and then of course Debbie Wasserman Schultz is still defending the use of a Dropbox 6 months later. Why would you do something like that? Because you are protecting and defending this business. Now, I feel, well, I won't say if people are in this business, I think they get gradually drawn into it until it gets totally out of control. Okay, so all those things fall apart. If you look at the actual police reports, you see these places where they're redacted. They are, typically very late at night and so forth. Again, this is a dark, seedy area. I've been there about 5 times. I went there. I was felt very uncomfortable. I deliberately ate at a fast food restaurant there, and sure enough, I had people come take my picture when I was there. Usually, I'm not that big of a star on YouTube that people would come take my picture. I'm quite convinced of that. And again, if it was just little beatings and so forth, why the redactions? And then why is Imran's name never mentioned in the police report? Okay, going through here again, no mention of these just very odd just very odd. They don't read like a normal police report. No, normally someone would say, we argued about this, and then he went and got a weapon, and then this happened, and then that happened. This is just very hastily thrown together. And I've talked to task force about this, and it just looks like these are just stories that are created after the fact. Again, why black out the case number? Why black out the date? Doesn't allow you to do any cross-checking, cross-verification. Here's something that happens on the 5th, and it does happen at this 6314 address, and I do believe that trafficking is occurring at that address. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm just going to say that these are all signatures of the oil and for weapons and dark weapons business, and then all this other stuff, the drugs and so forth, seem to come along with it. I remember when I started saying this maybe 250 days ago, how outlandish it was. Now it's all coming to light. These 5,000 text messages, 50,000 text messages actually in 2 years, right? 50,000 text messages in 2 years. I don't think that's two lovers trying to keep something on the down low. If it was, then go ahead and just produce the metadata for the text messages. We don't want to hear all the lovebird stuff. Just produce the text messages.